Welcome back to Weather Now. With me today is Houston Chronicle meteorologist Justin Ballard. Justin, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me again.
I'm thrilled to have you. Yeah. Look, your insight is always very valuable to us, and I'm excited about this topic because it is certainly one that is on point.
It's very topical.
That's right, and that is tornado watches and warnings issued across Southeast Texas this year. Justin, you looked at the data, and you found that the National Weather Service here locally has issued 16 tornado watches this year. That is a big number, the most since 2015. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
You know, that number doesn't necessarily jump off the page when you're looking at just, 1/6, but certainly is. If you look back over the last 10 years, the number of tornado watches, we're talking single events, usually 9 times out of 10 in the single digits. But since 2015, which saw 18 tornado watches, this year's the most busy that we've had in terms of tornado watches. Now, we're talking watches, right? What about tornado warnings? Total of 61 tornado warnings issued by the local National Weather Service office. That's the most tornado warnings since Hurricane Harvey in 2017. If you were to take out Harvey's influence, it would actually be the most number of tornado warnings in the last 10, 11 years since I was looking at that data.
So these are huge numbers.
Yeah.
Let's first talk about the impact of Harvey, right? When you get a tropical cyclone, you're spinning up these tornadoes or these possible tornadoes. So that's the reason why we saw so many warnings in that particular year, correct?
Exactly. You get a lot of friction, of course, once that tropical, whatever it is, Harvey in this instance, kind of comes on shore, and that typically spins up usually brief and usually weak tornadoes, nothing like what we saw over the weekend, but they can be pretty intense at times especially. So we did see a lot of Hurricane Harvey tornadoes, a big outbreak. 157 tornado warnings were issued just in the days before, during, and after.
I mean, that is such a massive number when you think about the main impacts of Harvey. Tornadoes, probably not even the first, second, or third thing on your mind, but over 150 tornado warnings during Harvey. That strongly skews the numbers clearly.
Yeah, 206, I think, was the total number of tornado warnings for 2017. If you take out the Harvey's influence, it would look like a pretty quote-unquote typical year.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, what a massive difference that is. Now, the question here, with a high number of tornado watches this year, with a high number of tornado warnings, is this a trend? Are tornadoes, or at least tornado watches and warnings, are they becoming more common here in the Houston area?
This is a tricky question, and one that I don't think we really fully know the answer to. I think we can speculate. You see right there on your screen, Iowa State has a fantastic resource to plot all the tornado warnings. This is just for 2024 rather. I'm a decade behind. You see 2024 tornado warnings. All of those polygons represent tornado warnings that were issued by the local forecast office across Southeast Texas. So of course, National Weather Service covers all the way up to Houston County, not Houston, the city, Houston County, over an hour away, and then west towards the Brazos River Valley. So all 61 of those tornado warnings that were issued are plotted right there on that map. That map looks pretty different when you're looking at Hurricane Harvey. A lot more concentration right along the coast, but very dense reds on the map because of all the polygons. But to answer the question, I don't think we really fully know. What we're seeing is populations, of course, are expanding and increasing. I think we know that about Houston, right? So what we're seeing is more of an observational bias, more so than necessarily the numbers are changing. But Harris County is the single most prone county to tornadoes specifically in Texas.
That is very interesting what you said about the growing population, right? Not just a denser population, but sprawling out. So some areas that maybe used to be urban and the National Weather Service isn't sure, is there a tornado there or not? Well, now there's people there. And if there's a tornado, there's damage there. And they're able to detect that, right?
And of course, that plays into kind of the observational bias. Tornadoes probably aren't happening more often, but we're certainly recording them and having them hit damage property more often.
That is very great analysis here. And I want to show you, stick with me for a second while we take a look at this video. This is one of 6 confirmed tornadoes that hit Southeast Texas this weekend. This clip from Caney Creek in Montgomery County here. The county says it is an EF3 tornado that caused significant damage to the Porter and New Caney area. 8 to 10 people have minor injuries from this. More than 300 structures were affected. Of those, 30 were destroyed. And if we could pop up that video so we could see it. What stands out to you? What are your thoughts just immediately upon looking at that video?
I mean, honestly, it reminds me of the derecho that I covered in 2020 in northern Illinois, Cedar Rapids. This looks very similar to that sort of wind and that damage.
And you see the winds just going, for now, just in one direction.
Right.
And I mean, those have got to be 80 plus easily mile-per-hour winds.
Oh, yeah.
And then now you're starting to see those winds shift. And that's one slight difference between a derecho, where
Correct.
typically it's all
Straight
one
line.
direction. And then the tornado, it's coming in one direction at 100 plus, and then you're on the backside, it's switching around the other direction.
If I'm the person recording this, though, I'm really nervous.
I don't even know how.
I don't
if
know
there was
how
a
that
person,
happened, but
you saw all the debris flying through the air, and then even if that was just a stationary camera, how that survived those intense
beyond
winds.
us.
Yeah, it really is. But just an idea and a visual representation of how dangerous. We talk about the numbers: this many watches, this many warnings, but that's the reality of it.
That's the testament.
That's exactly it. These are dangerous, these are deadly, and we need to treat every single warning as if that could be the end of it.
Exactly.
Okay, Justin, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.